Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any concerns or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I believe we've taken care of the Gravett property. Taken care of that. This is unfinished business. We'll go to unfinished business number 2, and that is the bids for the fire department fit testing. That's been approved. So what is number 3? Town Square Revitalization. It's in your packet with some nice drawings. Mr. Willett, anything you care to say, or?
We're just generally looking for blessing and approval on the public town square. Really unpleasant, but they will just let it do what our plans are. Doing that.
And most of this is about a $6,500 project, about $5,000 of which will be paid by that grant that you went and secured for the town, for DBI.
Actually, yes, looking at the budget stuff, we're probably gonna come right at the 5,000 mark, that we're gonna be okay in that.
That's all.
Take care of all of that.
Got two ideas, I guess. And I've read down at the bottom corner, it says not to scale, but with bench, planter, and bench, how close, I mean, is that gonna allow a thoroughfare?
It will not interfere with any entryway, you know, because if you, like I always say, you have to really put yourself in that space because it's quite large.
Yeah.
One thing that I will note, we are not probably gonna go to 4 foot in length, we're probably gonna bump that up to 6, and that still should not in any way interfere with entry regulations.
And then another, and I understand what you're trying to accomplish with the love work, with the mural behind it, but wouldn't it make more sense to have it catty-cornered or either centered behind the bench
I
on,
think that, are you like in the center of the town square?
yeah.
We had suggested that would be our initial option, but then I like the idea, after speaking with Philip, to have it in that section. I like Tom's idea when we looked at it to catty corner it. I think that makes more sense for visual purposes, than just to have it facing towards the kitchen.
I just feel like it would be missed, and you don't want such a good asset to Blackstone to be missed if it's sideways when you're going down the street, because there's a fence and then there's some big hardscape columns right there, so
It's a good point.
and I understand that the mural would be a good backdrop, but I think we need to, granted, it's not us paying for it, but it is our property, so we have a little bit of say.
Is the Loveworks, like a better word, the Loveworks display going to be somewhat portable, or wherever you set it, it's going to be?
No.
It'll just,
I
You
mean,
want to see a picture of it? It weighs about 350 pounds.
okay, all right.
the logo is meant to be a permanent display unless some kind of
Okay.
No, I mean, we had an individual, or a wife and a husband come from Virginia Beach just to look at the love sign at the garden center and to visit the brew house, eat, and then travel to Farmville to look at their love sign, and then they turned right back around and went home.
That's
So if
awesome.
it's visible, I think, it'd be easier to see, I think, for the public, because they are a tourist destination. So.
Is that going to cause a lot of angst, what he's recommending?
What do you mean like moving it to the center?
Catty corner or center is what I
Make it
ultimately
the
think.
showcase.
I'm not personally against either one.
I like the idea with centered, but I mean, that's up to,
How about as the installation begins, we could maybe even have a special meeting out there, have a call meeting and go look at it. And we can all move it around a little bit. Tell Tom when it's straight.
be a good field trip.
Do you
I'm
need
handing it off to Philip, and then it's on.
Do you need any vote tonight? This is just information.
Did the mural sheet get passed?
I haven't seen the mural sheet that you gave me. This is the mural, ladies and gentlemen.
Required, specific approval or anything, but everybody to be aware.
My
of
goodness.
the mural, Hawthorne and Hawthorne wall. It'll be about 17 by 32 feet in length. The side wall with Hawthorne and Hawthorne.
When do you anticipate work beginning on this?
First of all, I want to note that we won't do anything until we have written approval. We have verbal approval from Hawthorne and Hawthorne. but
Okay.
They are going to work to get us a written statement in the next week.
Lawyers move slow.
Power washing, that whole wall will begin next Wednesday probably.
Right.
And then they'll continue.
Who were some of the people that had their hand in this? This is outstanding. Who were some folks that did this? You and who else? Design
I
committee?
would just say the whole DEI group.
It's beautiful, it's excellent. You and I have discussed, I'm not a big fan of putting the state in there, VA, but hey,
You gotta have it.
that's all right. Hey, that's awesome. Looks good. Well, that's right. You know, we are very similar to Massachusetts. I keep forgetting that. Any discussions or questions of Mr. Whitlow? Zach, you doing? Yes, Mr. Whitlow.
Just so we all understand, the only thing we expect from the town is just help us put a lot more concrete percolation, and then just helping us mount the benches and the picnic tables.
That shouldn't be a problem. The town manager helped do that in the park recently, so
We
that's,
need to know where to ship the furniture to, like an address specifically. They can't come to Depot, we can't handle shipping.
Yeah, we got a full go there, and there won't be a problem.
bus shop. You can get the address later, the exact address. Ladies and gentlemen, moving right along. Next item is award, on number 4, award the grass cutting bids at the fire department.
Solicited sealed bids for the grass cutting at the fire department. We received one proposal back, and that was from Clay's Landscaping in the amount of $2,395, and that is for an annual cutting.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, you have the motion to approve the low bid, the only bid from Clay's Landscaping, $23.95. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you, Mr. Nash. Next item is fairly important. We overlooked this in July because we didn't have the whole band, all the members of the band weren't here. But every 4th July, this council is elect a president of council. And Ms. Thompson has held that post since 2010, and she's held it well.
I move to continue the ranks with the senior council member, Ms. Barbara Thompson.
I second.
Is there a second to any other
second.
nomination? All right. Mr. Miller has second. Any further discussion? Barbara, we thank you for what you do and your manner in doing it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Madam President. Excellent. Continuing to move along, does anyone have any potential nominees for the Board of Zoning Appeals? There's a 5-member panel that only has 4 members right now. I believe it's all ladies right now, isn't it? Is it all? It's Myra, is it?
Michael Bagley?
Mr. Bagley's on it.
Mr. Bagg, that's right, that's right, you're representing the gentleman, I forgot about that.
Approached the topic with 2 individuals, and they said they didn't.
I have a potential name that came, a lady called me in the community. She said that she'd like to be active and volunteer. I don't mind saying it loud, but I'd want to run this by. Monica Frisbee is someone that had talked about an interest in volunteering.
Should we go?
I don't know if she'd want to do this, but I will call her and see if she'd like to do this, unless there are any other nominations or potential.
And please note with the BZA, it's the judge actually makes the
Right.
appointment. We're making a recommendation to the judge. Yep.
I've told several residents, we got a BZA matter coming, shouldn't be any problem. But I said, look, don't worry about lobbying your council, because the council has you need to lobby your BZA members who are appointed by the judge. And there's no problem with that request, but they were asking me about the Bird Road. You got a hearing tomorrow, don't you? Or Wednesday, all right. Ongoing projects, anything new to report? We can just breeze by these, Mr. Norbeck?
Dilapidated buildings, nothing. Meals tax, there's no additional outstanding. Street improvement projects, I do need a motion from the council on this. Town council did receive, or the town of Blackstone applied for and did receive a grant in the amount of $456,402 to make street improvements to South Main Street.
Right.
It's a 50-50 match, but will take us from where the terminus of the existing pavement right there at the nursing home, and it'll get us across 8th Street and replace that culvert that runs from the church to between Community Convenience and Rick's. We may also try to patch in the last of that sidewalk that's in between 8th and 10th, and maybe we'll be primed to do some paving, but this is still a couple years away.
Which side of the street on 8th to 10th, the east side or west side?
For the sidewalk?
Yeah.
You've already got about a half of it on the west side. So I would anticipate continuing on the west side, especially if we proceed on with curb and gutter and sidewalk on South Main, which I think is a legitimate project. That would logically be on that side as well. There's 2 limiting factors to going on the east side. One is the overhead utilities, which are
That's true.
headaches, and the second one is the steep grade in front of Clay's, and also right there at the Old Town Planter, if you're looking.
Oh,
to
no
the-
doubt, that just drops off the end of the.
That's where your costs are. So logically, we would install the curb and gutter and sidewalk probably with this project and just fill in the gaps, because in front of Mr. Eaton's house, there's already curb and gutter and
is.
sidewalk. In front of portions Like Joe Walter, maybe there's not, so we would logically try to fill that in there.
The only sad part about that, ladies and gentlemen, is most of your pedestrians that we all see and sympathize with that are walking the food line at Walmart are walking on the
other
Clay
side.
side. Because you hate to divert them out to Walmart and say, now, good luck crossing Route 40. That's that's gonna be a
I think
challenge.
we would have to put a crosswalk down there at
Yes.
the
Yes.
entrance, but it's cost prohibitive. If VDOT pays 100%, it's not cost prohibitive.
Right.
I think we've submitted the application, $6 million.
But I don't know how they could do without infringing, totally ruining your business. I mean,
Well, I'd love it if they took away that embankment.
Retaining walls and handrails and all those kinds of things, and that's why the cost.
okay. You want a motion from council to accept this grant, 50-50
Me
match?
to execute the documentation.
All right. And the motion's been made by Mr. Wilkinson. Is there a second?
I second motion.
Ms. Jones is second. Just a quick question, just because we've had such an outflow tonight. The local match, which is gonna be what, 456?
That will come out of local funds over the next 3 years.
Okay. The
Like we
highway
did in-
funds or,
Well, we can use a portion of the highway funds, but some general funds as well.
okay.
I don't think we can completely,
Good thing we've been saving, folks.
Yeah, 2020.
Done a good job.
no increase in rates or anything.
Okay.
We're asking to just, and we'll make that, we've got 3 years to do from the date we execute the agreement. We've got 3 years to construct the project. Same thing as Nottaway. Remember?
Right.
We did it over a series of 3
That's
budgets.
right, the sidewalks.
That's what I would propose again.
Motion made and second. I'll ask for a roll call vote due to the dollar amount, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. Moving right along.
Riddlesworth Sports Complex, I think Mr. Nash was concerned as to the scheduling for the curb and gutter and sidewalk project. We have received our comments back from VDOT. We have to address the comments and then resubmit them to VDOT for final approval. But we have gotten the comments back from VDOT. And I didn't see anything other than, please include certain items in the legend. I mean, it's pretty basic comments. So I think your question whether we were ready for baseball, I can tell you now, 8 months ahead of time, it won't be paved. Paving is gonna be tough. If this work takes place in October, November, December, it's likely that we'll have to wait until spring to get asphalt back.
I mean, that's gonna be a quick day in, day out. I would think.
Literally a day to get it done, but the
That's not-
temperature and the weather is gonna dictate.
Yeah, my issue would be that if we're doing curb and gutter for 2 months during the middle of ball season or
Oh, no,
whatever
no, no,
season, I don't want.
That's not gonna be the case. We're gonna be all
All
right.
right, very
But the
good.
paving will have to wait until after the
Moving along to your utility upgrade project number 5.
East End project. We're gonna open up the bids with the water and sewer portion of East End, along with a water line that'll be constructed from the bowling alley to the main gate of Fort Pickett, and a storm sewer to be replaced behind Acapulco's, that particular block. I think there's been a series of flooding issues over the
decades.
years, so that is included in the budget as well, all funded, and all,
That's informational, you don't need to.
Right.
Let me ask you this, you mentioned East End, have we had any feelers out? This is the latest I can remember them going without announcing the grant awards for the DHCD. Any tea leaves?
they announced last year on September 15th.
Oh, it was that late?
It
okay.
is later than it has been, but last year was, we looked it up on the governor's
Okay.
website, it was September 15th.
All right, very good. Every time I get an email from the governor's office, I'm like,
The amount of money we're putting in on it, I just don't see how they can deny it. But
all right, and that takes care of number 6, doesn't it? We're waiting on the East End notification.
Utility upgrade project, Lisbon Construction will begin their work. Their 365 days has already begun, and hopefully we'll have our first project update meeting the first Wednesday of October, if anybody's interested in the morning. You also see an East End update that Yvonne presented. We have been approved verbally. We do not have the documentation for a $90,000 grant from the Southeast Rural Community Action Program.
Great.
Located in Roanoke, and that would basically pay for the water and sewer connections, so we can replace all water and sewer connections in the East End, so nobody has an old sewer line and a new house and a backup and all that kind of
That's
stuff. So,
wonderful. That's great.
good job by Yvonne.
Very good,
working on
Yvonne. That's important.
that. We do have
Rental property maintenance, that's something we're gonna get on.
September 25th at 6 o'clock, there is a public hearing that, I think public meeting is probably the proper term, that Yvonne will be hosting and meeting with landlords who own property in the town of Blackstone. to let
Are
them
we,
know-
are we notifying them directly by, how are we notifying them? Okay. If there's some are significant landowners or,
Oh, yeah, I mean, we can make additional phone calls and make
yeah,
sure.
just to make sure. That's a big meeting. That's very important. Great
is
job.
there a way that the town knows? I mean, obviously we know, but is it noted in the computer system that this is
I think a reasonable person can pick through them, but the single family, That's the tough part. Is
The
it
rental
rental?
homes, I mean, there are people who own, I know some people who own several homes in Pickett Court, that sort of thing,
But I can tell you, Brenda Bryant, she
probably
knows
said
that they're rentals already. I don't know if that's a formal way to do it, but she knows who lives where and all that sort of thing.
Try to
So
talk it up a
we
little
certainly
bit.
do it.
yeah.
Weatherization Assistance Program, we're ready to start moving on with the project at the Fields home. As you know, we're going to demolish and replace 511 Stoke Street. The bids for the asbestos came in very good. We had a series of bids, and this was $1,650. We had other bids in the $3,000 range, and I believe $5,800 was from one company in Richmond. So we're going to go ahead and award. I don't need necessarily a motion, but it is weatherization, and anything over $10,000 necessarily would require your approval.
Council's voted to proceed with the project, because didn't we get a $10,000 donation from the Southside Outreach? It's like it's a $60,000 project, we're doing
Put
50.
up $10,000. That is
All right.
correct.
Mr. Miller, you got a question?
Is this the only house that we're gonna winterize this year, or we're gonna do some more?
Your budget just started in July. This is using last year's money.
Okay.
You still have this
So
year's.
how many homes are we gonna winterize this year?
I would love to say we'll be able to do 3 true weatherizations. This is a new house. This is eating up our budget.
Right.
So we'd like to maybe get back into paring it down. I'm bad for it, and they have to remind me sometimes. We're not doing termite treatment. We're not doing all these other things. We're putting insulation and weatherizing houses. So Yvonne has to discipline me not to do more than what we can.
How much was in the budget for this year? How much was,
50,000.
50,000? Now, one of the things I had recommended, and again, this will be y'all's call, but I was just thinking out loud, Mr. Nash has had a great idea on the pole attachment fees. That's gonna be potentially new revenue for the town, and I thought that might be a good place to divert that revenue to weatherization. Or you could take, a lot of people ask, where's the meals tax go? Where's everything go? It'd be nice, or maybe council could say recreation, or pick something new every year. Because that'll be annual revenue, won't it?
We've got this year's, correct?
And use that as a discretionary fund for the council.
Or something like that. That's
We'll discuss it, yeah.
very good, all right, very good. Moving right along, Mr. Norbeck.
And just one other item, on the Fields home, the town we're putting up a lot of money for the electric system, but we're also doing the demo in the house. It's a small frame house. As best as comes off, we'll do the demolition, we'll haul it. There'll be some trees and things removed and some debris in the yard.
The county charges tipping fees?
They don't wait for anybody. Jesus Christ. Those permits that you do.
We asked them a little help for that project, but anyway, all right, moving right along. Comprehensive plan. Yes. We do need to approve the bid on the $1,650 for Rugby Environmental. That's for the asbestos
It's under
demolition.
$10,000, so I don't know if you need to, but since it's weatherization and for purposes everybody knows what's going on.
Just to be safe, I entertain a motion, just to be safe. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion been made and second to award the low bid of $1,650 to Rugby Environmental. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0.
One last item, very quickly, the bid for the contractors to rebuild Mr. Fields' home will close on Friday, August the 24th. SS&S, which has done work for us before, was the lowest bidder at $64,125. Now, that's more than the 60, but I would propose take the difference out of the program income that we have set aside.
Okay.
We have $6,500 or $7,500 in program income, which is everybody pays their shekels every month. when they pay
Castles
their-
Trailer Park, all that.
all those things that we've used a significant amount of that money already, but we just did where Jennifer reconciled it and she added some money to it, so the difference would come from program.
All right, do you want to award that bid? And,
Hold on, one second.
yes.
You know, when we opened the bids, there was a discrepancy in the
And
numbers.
this,
Did y'all get that
this
straight?
reflects, there was a math error in SS's and S's bid, so Yvonne went back today and recalculated, spoke with Earl and Earlene, and indeed they
Where
are.
are they located
I
at?
was going to ask the same thing.
I don't know, but they're originally, I think, guys from Jamaica, but they've been working on houses since Taylor bought them.
Really?
They have done houses for the town of Blackstone since.
Yes,
They've got a
S&S.
track record. They're not just someone breezing in town.
No, they've been around a while.
Okay, all
I believe they're
right.
from Jamaica or St. Croix or something.
No, I'll entertain a motion to approve the low bid and also the overage by using program revenue that the town has at its disposal.
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved, Mr. Thompson has seconded. I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0. And then we had a comprehensive plan meeting. I was on vacation. Understand you had a good crowd, 20, 25 people?
We had a good crowd. I think we're also gonna do some survey work as well. and some other items, so moving forward with it.
What was it, did anybody talk about the need for better high-speed internet, broadband, that sort of thing? Was that discussed?
It was.
I think it came up as one of the items.
Because I got speed tested at my house and in my business, and compared to what the folks in Woodlake are getting, because I don't mind telling you, I get my phone, I get up in the morning and I'll try to watch like TV on my phone, direct TV. I don't have, it'll start coming on, and then I'm in my house with the high-speed internet, and a friend of mine who's a tech guru, he said, Woodlake, man, they've got so, I don't know if we can be like Woodlake, but we need to be faster than what we
Better
are.
than what we got.
How do we,
Absolutely.
I mean, this has been a hot topic in
It
the
is.
past few weeks. I've heard a lot about it.
I think Larry was actually proposing for the town to operate a,
Southside Electric's thinking of dipping its feet into it. Mecklenburg Co-op is doing it right now. They're doing,
I mean, what companies provide high-speed internet? I mean,
we have Chantel, which is
legitimate
Chantel.
high-speed. I mean,
Chantel?
is it Chris? Your name? Yes, Chris.
I actually live on Ridge Road, and I have Chantel, and I'm testing out on very high speeds, almost 101 per.
I've heard Chantel people speak very favorable.
we've shifted all of the town accounts to Chantel.
Really?
Everything's on Chantel instead of.
What does that cost you a month? I'm just curious.
Well, for 101 megabytes per second.
Not all accounts.
It's more, it's 139, but you got the.
You could have just agreed.
The only other option was
Could've just said okay.
CenturyLink, you only had 10 megabytes per second.
Right, that's what I'm on. Gotcha. All right, well, good. But we're gonna have a follow-up comprehensive plan, I believe, another meeting in the form of, you putting together a survey. Very good. Thank you, Yvonne. And Philip, you want to move to number 10? We've had a Veterans Day event. Planning is going very well. That's Sunday, November 11th at 11 a.m. And I'm contacting churches, and hopefully, with churches,
just come there and worship.
we can.
That's what's going out tomorrow.
Great. And I've invited the governor. I've not gotten to know. I've talked to her staff, but there might be a late-minute decision. But invited him, our delegates, and all those folks.
I think the banners look great.
Dude, outstanding job on the banners.
Banners
Like
look
them?
great.
Well,
I've heard
good. They were vinyl, and I was afraid, and we ordered vinyl. I signed the purchase order. We have cloth American flags, and the other banners are vinyl. I thought they were going to clash, but they don't appear to. They appear to work together. pretty
Home
good.
run.
We had heard
run.
in the past a fairness deal with why don't we extend it on Broad Street? Is there any way that we can
Put more banners up?
put more?
Nope. We just got to put some more money in. And I told you the banners were about $2,300. But really, the invoice that was approved from Moscow Design is about $4 because they had to pay for brackets. And I misreported to you last month.
Just look at it
$2,300.
and come back to us and give us an idea.
Sure.
And don't forget also, we've also got, and it may be that we're doing too much and it can't be done this year, but I know the last year there was some support for new Christmas decorations. And the beautification committee is going to work with DBI pretty soon, I think, and try to come up with something. But, Mr. Nash had a great idea that a lot of folks couldn't figure out how to implement, and that was not have banners and bows and just light up Blackstone with the buildings. But then there were some potential legal issues of that. But time is of the essence on that. Yvonne, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
With the banners, I just wanted to add to the Moscow have said that if anything happens to those banners within the next 3 years, that they'll replace them,
That's pretty good, actually.
That's impressive. Very good. You'll probably take them down at Christmas time if we use banners.
Certainly then. I don't know how, since they're vinyl, the cloth has held up great and they haven't faded very much. We'll have to see we may have to wash those vinyl ones, especially the white ones, a little
Yeah.
bit more often.
Yeah.
They'll probably get mold and mildew on them a little more.
Are we going to light the tavern this year? I know you had discussed.
It was just something I had thought it was a great idea, and yeah.
We'll
and
take
just,
it.
one
We
thing, I
gotta-
remember Bob Hinkle taught me when we used to run the home decorating when you spotlight a home or business at Christmas, you can't have too much light.
You
really can't overlight it.
I've mentioned before, Blackstone really shines at Christmas. Granted, this year we're going to be missing a big aspect, which is bevels.
Yep.
But I really think we need to spotlight our town during that time, and that's why I mentioned lights lining the actual building tops. I mean, Richmond does it, and
I'll certainly have the tavern and the museum to a degree, and the farm implements that we've pulled closer to the road and that sort of thing dressed up. I think we're planning on doing something a little more over there at the tavern. I know you've made a request. As far as the downtown decorations,
Tough one.
man. Someone tell me what to do, and
And it's late
I'll
too,
get
the
'em.
hour's late, and getting a consensus is gonna be hard, but we'll sure give it a try. Zach, you think we can crank up the design committee and the beautification and throw something to council maybe? When do you have to, how long ago did y'all have to wait for what was the lag time between ordering the military banners and receiving them?
they were pretty quick.
say within a month.
So we need to order by October, mid-October, because early October. Yeah, they start decorating the week before Thanksgiving. The banners go up. All right, thank y'all for your indulgence. Moving along to new business, we have a list of surplus items.
If you would approve that surplus list, we'll again do it on Gov Deals, and again, we'll put a small ad in the paper, letting local folks know that these will be available.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the request. Ms. Hasbrook has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the
What's
motion
the
carries.
8x8 posts? Are they from what we were gonna be building? Okay. So they're brand new posts, so everybody,
Well, I asked Zach about it. Can you use them?
No, I already.
You've already got some, so, yeah.
We have Babs next, and this is the Title VI plan, which is normally just a routine vote. But I'm intrigued by the new language assistance plan for Babs, because not everybody in Blackstone speaks English. What is being asked of our drivers, our Babs employees?
Well, it's kind of hard to implement it now, considering that our current employees aren't really bilingual or anything like that.
Right.
It's more of a plan for the future. So, like, if say Barbara leaves or something, and I need to have somebody there that speaks Spanish, because I don't speak Spanish, I speak a little French, but
Okay.
that is basically what I would be looking for in hiring that next person. The essence behind the plan is making sure that we are compliant with Title VI and that we have a plan in place to meet the growing needs of our area. So people who don't speak English primarily or have a disablement or impairment or something like that.
Gotcha. But the plan, I have not read everything in the plan, but
It's a lot.
it's not saying we pledge to hire at least 3 people over the next 10 years that can speak dual language. It's just
You know, it's our goal to meet.
Goal, okay.
To have somebody there.
to show effort.
if we have an applicant that's bilingual, they're certainly going to move up. They're going
It
to
would
be
be a higher,
score. Or,
yeah, it'd be more demandable than somebody that isn't.
very good. We. All right. Do we need to approve this? Do we need to approve this?
Yes, I have to sign it, but I wanted to make sure that y'all are okay with it before I sign it.
So you need a motion.
Yes.
I move to authorize Mr. Worrell to execute the document.
Mr. Nash has moved and Mr. Miller has seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0. Moving along, what is number 3, Mr. Benoit?
No money associated, but we do have some businesses
Yeah.
outside of town on North Main Street that are really struggling with sanitary sewer and greenfield issues. And 2 years ago, when Wilburn's was renovated, because they put in public bathrooms, there were some different regulations about size of tank and septic tank. So Miss Wilburn's store was able not to have to make the improvements because we had done some preliminary engineering work about getting water and sewer up that northern corridor of town. Jamie Holly did give a 2-year permit. The 2 years has expired. And what I'm asking for council is just authorization to start trying to see if there's a way to finance getting water and sewer.
I think on common
Outside
consent,
town.
we can,
They'll pay 50% extra. That's one
I
thing we
think common
know.
consent, we can,
And I think this will also tell the health department that the town is making yet another step towards trying to resolve this. So hopefully, they'll be able to allow some of these properties that are on old septic tank permits to continue with those permits without having to make very expensive.
your problem would be sewer, would you have fall in that area to
I don't
connect?
think you can flow the whole place by gravity if you were intending to go to
You would have to put a
460.
pump station in, which would increase your line.
So if you got, like, say, for example, out of town on that street on Cox Road, you've got the animal clinic, you've got Wilburn Store. Suppose you have some residents there that do not want to partake. We'd have to do mandatory hookup, wouldn't you?
I would think the thing to do is work with the county and
Yeah.
have the county agree that it would be mandatory to hook on, because if you build a water line, only one person's on it.
I think but you're going to be asking the county to tell their constituents that, hey, you have to hook up to Blackstone. That's going to be fun.
If this were to happen, then, yeah,
Yeah.
mandatory connection, that's always.
But all you're doing is being responsive. We've had requests and we're trying to be proactive. So very good.
Assist somebody with it. So by common consent, I'm gonna be taking a peek at that and have you.
I think we can agree by common consent and move on to the DMV MOU, which looks like fun.
Please sign it.
All right.
Just read
Sta-
over.
Staff is good with it? Staff good with it? Members of council, what's your pleasure? It's pretty much a boilerplate annual motion.
I make a motion that we go ahead and sign it.
I'll second.
Ms. Hasbrook has moved and Mr. Morgan has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I added new business number 5 at the request of the Crew mayor. I think it might be moot now. Crew has approved Luckstone in the town, and the county is going to have a meeting in October. I was asked by the mayor.
I love the mayor himself, but, I mean, I don't know if it's really our bone to really pick.
I told him I would bring it before the council. I'm excited for Crew. It's a good thing for Crew. I know there's some controversy up there, but
A lot of controversy.
when it was brought to my attention, Crew had not acted on it, but they voted unanimously 2 weeks ago to approve everything in the town of Crew. So I think this letter is moot.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna move on. Meals tax audit, Mr. Norbeck, this has been discussed in the past.
These can be a little contentious, so we want to make sure council understands. Jennifer Hardy has developed a system by which she can cross-reference using state returns to determine the meals tax reporting and look at the returns from individuals. And we're just asking for authorization to move forward with that this year, if it's the intention of council to do it.
So is the process easier now? You won't have to go through all the hoops like we had before?
So if you remember, nobody attended by.
Correct. Seminar.
I think at least we know what the hoops are now, rather than doing this the first time. I think
Do you need authorization that we perform the audit?
I think so.
I move that the town proceed on with its, I guess it may be an annual meals tax audit.
Did we do it last year or the year before? Last year.
It involves all restaurants, correct? All restaurants. It's not, is it all? Yes. So is that, right, okay. Because one time the audit, we were talking about doing rotating audits with inspections, and that's what going into certain restaurants, there was, that sort of thing. So Mr. Nash has moved to proceed with the annual audit. Is there a second?
A second.
I'm gonna give Mr. Miller a second. No further discussion?
Why do it every year? I mean, once, we did it the first time last year and do it this year, but maybe go every other year.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
when I said annual, I meant we did it last year and this year. So, I mean, if I need to take that out, that's fine. That it's not annual.
Well, if it was done this past year, then what Mr. Hasbrook is saying, then maybe do it in 2019.
Do it this year, just to make sure everybody's aware of it, and then make sure everybody's on board, and then we don't have to do it as often.
Yeah,
Very good.
fine.
All right. That's a motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. And now we're going to shoot some deer with bows and arrows. Mr. Norbeck, urban archery.
Sergeant Matthias is here to answer any question. There are some changes, and they're substantive changes.
Pretty big change here.
And
Pretty big
so,
change.
I know Sergeant Matthias is here to answer any questions. I would think this is one of the things by reducing the acreage or eliminating the acreage requirement. And I think also allow target shooting in town, limits.
Public hearing.
I think there's an ordinance, you're gonna have to have a public hearing, but Chris is here, and he has stuck through the entire meeting. If you have any questions on what the motivations were, or some of his thoughts for the recommendation to make the changes, he's here to answer.
You still have the current setbacks and stuff.
The setbacks stay the same, and that's, I think, some of the justification that Matthias is, regardless if it's 1 acre, 2 acre, you still have to be X number of feet or yards away from it.
That's pretty, you have to be a minimum of 100 yards from a dwelling, building, street, sidewalk, alley, or roadway. That right there is going to ensure, that's going to take a lot of land out of running anyway, isn't it, Sergeant?
Most of them.
You wouldn't have anybody trying to bow hunt in the sea park or anything.
Not in your neighborhood.
My biggest reason for bringing it up is, our harvest data has been going down every year.
It has,
Last year was only 1 deer.
in town limits.
That's all we checked, 1 deer.
Wow. It was like 14, it was like
The very first year was 14 or 15, and then we've gone down ever since. And I'm not saying this is a factor, but it's really difficult to find 3 continuous acres to be able to
Yeah.
I agree. Does
Is it
council?
because
Go ahead.
lots have been built out, or is it just, because I don't see that much building, I guess. It's just the,
No, it just mainly is on the outskirts of town if you really think about it.
Okay.
I mean, it just makes it a
Well,
lot more
common consent, would council like to proceed and seek public input on this change?
that's fine.
At the maybe September meeting, would that be enough time to get it, would that meet your deadline?
Now, this is for next season.
For next season, okay, we're good, okay. Well, common consent, we'll have a hearing,
Public hearing.
at the next council meeting, regular meeting. moving right along, Mr. Norbeck has asked that I refer an item about the 911 address. Is this the lack of proper numbers on homes?
Well, I think Castle Trailer Park, if you look at those houses over there, Susan had notified of us some others, and there's some other anomalies, like Ridge Road is kind of an odd duck.
It is.
Picket Court's kind of an odd duck. I'm not advocating wholesale big Maple Lane, same thing. I'm really not advocating to make those changes, but I can tell you, Castle Trailer Park, those addresses are all incorrect in Castle Trailer Park. If you're driving on Dinwiddie Avenue, going to the east, on the left-hand side should be an odd number, and it starts at 500, 502, 504, and 506. Yeah, simply badly addressed. So the Castle Trailer Park project is really the one that probably needs the most attention. I'm not advocating changing Picket Court addresses or Ridge Road addresses, because they're done differently than they would have otherwise, because they're in sequence rather than left and right.
Like Picket Court, I believe, like on the left, if you drive, the left side, are they all, they're in numerical order.
They're numerical order, they're
Yeah.
not even and odd like they are on a typical street in town.
Like on your left may be 37, then across the street might be 12.
Yeah.
Or something,
Right, it
you know.
starts with one
They,
on
one
the
side
right side.
escalates and one side, it's really interesting.
But I believe that with law enforcement, fire and EMS, I think, Dinwiddie Avenue, that does need to be.
And I think the town may have to, town address it. And the town address it incorrectly. It's just,
Does the town address or?
That was a-
reassign the address.
I thought Nottaway County did that during 911. I thought back in the 90s. It was Geographic Systems out of Tampa, Florida that did our 911.
We did the 911 for the town. We re-addressed a good portion of the town years ago. We left Ridge Road and Maple Lane all alone. We didn't dive into that. But the big changes were like on 4th Street, Academy Avenue, and you may remember some of this, Mayor. But we changed some addresses in those sequences of blocks.
It was
This one
controversial.
One was Castle Trailer Park, 2010, 2009. And it just, even numbers when it should be odd.
Yeah.
And I think that.
I don't think that's a huge ordeal, but I mean.
We'll refer this to staff and the Health and Ordinance Committee.
It very much can be a huge ordeal if you're on the police department, you're responding in
Well,
at
I'm talking
nighttime.
about
Yeah, it's not a fire.
Ordeal on the homeowner side.
Yeah.
I think it should be changed, most definitely.
So
Yeah.
we may have culpability if we sign the addresses, so we just figure out what has to be done, maybe we provide numbers for everybody. and all that.
I refer that to the Health and Ordinance. I believe the Chair of Health and Ordinance, that's Ms. Jones, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, that'll be your committee, and we're working closely with staff. Under the mayor's minute, I only have one thing to really say. We had a great, the VML conference, which I had not been to in a long time, it was very informative. Several council members took a lot of detailed notes. Some of the themes that hit me that day, we had a great presentation by Portsmouth folks about the manager-mayor relationship, council-manager relationship, and they spoke of having a retreat. And I just want to pose this question to the council. Would you be interested in a retreat? Of course, it'd be open to the public. A lot of the speakers said they prefer a remote location. It's more productive. You get away from the town. If we tried to have a retreat in here at the fire station, somebody try to grab Philip and say there's a water line broken. And what is your, I think this is a new council. I'm very excited. I think y'all are excited. And as you saw tonight, we've got all kinds of stuff going on positive. But would you like to have a retreat?
I think it'd be a good chance to work on the comprehensive plan in greater detail.
That and goals, 2013,
Goals are stale. Stale is,
yes,
they're past stale.
beyond.
Well, let me ask you this, and staff especially, time period, a one day, maybe like a 8 to 4, all day somewhere. One of the places that came to my mind, if we left town or, Twin Lakes has a conference center. It could be anywhere. I mean, I defer to y'all.
We use Harrison Moody's retreat center.
That's true.
I've been there before.
Yeah.
Great.
Place, and those are different options, and just as long as we don't have to do team building exercises.
Fall back, Philip. I got you. That's all right. That's all right.
We're gonna have testing, if it's agreeable.
Do we need to go, in your judgment, if you say yes, it's fine. Do we need to go in closed session and discuss the
You do
case?
not have to go into closed session.
I just think.
You have that option if you want to.
All right, well, let me just make sure. Does anyone here object to a retreat, a planned retreat, maybe an all-day event? All right, can maybe staff those some dates and times to us by email? Of course, if whenever, the public would be welcome to come, but they'd be bored to death, I think, but we'll get to work on that. And then I guess you want to do Carriage Museum. And just to brief the public, the council did receive, and the mayor received a letter from Bobby Thomas about several conditions he felt were not being met by the grant and the contract with the Thomas family. He also wrote the letter to the media. It's been disclosed, and unless there's any strategic reason why I think we should have an open session. Because there's some anxiety about, there's frustration in town about the museum not being open, although Zach is there when he, Swartz Tavern's not open on the weekends, and I think this may need to be a global conversation about more than just the Thomases. So, Mr. Monroe, whatever you want, y'all lead the discussion.
I provided with Tessie, I asked Tessie to participate in this, because there were some, contracts, agreements, what are we supposed to do, what are we not? What I have found is, there's not a lot of formal agreement between VDOT and the town. It really is, these activities that Robert pointed out to us, like paving the parking lots, were put in the town's application for the most part. So I think we still need to decide some things, but it also has some staffing some staffing proposals that the town put in its application, and I assume VDOT took those to be gospel. They're supposed to be open all weekend. There's supposed to be a paid person down there on the weekend.
Is that in the VDOT grant?
That's in the town's application for a VDOT grant.
Ooh. Okay.
So, I think there's some obligations about being open on the weekends and certain holidays and when I say obligations, that's where Tessie comes in. Is it an obligation, is it not? But most of these issues that were brought up were in the town's application when it applied for it. That really is the contract between the town. It's like a 3-pager, pretty limited. So I'll turn it over to Tessie and if you have any questions.
Well, it sounds like to me, Tessie, what Philip just said is that there were promises and grant, as often you do when you apply for a grant, it's flowing and it's wonderful. But when we got the grant receipt, is there a contract saying we hereby agree to do that which we said we were going to do? I mean, we should do that anyway, but.
You all want me to stand up or lean?
However you feel more comfortable.
What I propose that we do is with town council's approval, I would like to reach out to the representative for the VDOT grant and kind of get their position on it. And whether it's VDOT's official position that the applications and those conditions are all incorporated in the contract or are they not? I did want to note, with the contract I found is that it does specifically say in here, it was a part of the agreement, it's number 5, and it says, nothing in this agreement shall obligate the parties hereto to expend or provide any funds in excess of funds agreed upon in this agreement.
Okay.
And so with that provision, it made me think that perhaps, VDOT does just rely specifically on this agreement and just with the specific funds. But I would like to reach out to Mr. Della Morton, who is the VDOT local assistance person, and see what position VDOT takes on it, because a lot of these things are not so much issues with the town and Mr. Thomas or the Thomas family, even though there is a contract on that. But a lot of what he is cited to are supporting documents. So that would be my next step, and I would request approval from council to take that step and explore where we need to go with VDOT.
And common consent, that's just a good procedure to go talk to VDOT. Members of council, any objections of the attorney talking to VDOT?
No.
Okay, I'll do that then.
How about the contract with the Thomas family? I've never seen it, but have you seen it? Do we have one?
Yeah, there's one, Kim Walton provided me a copy not long ago. I look forward today for Tessie. I've just got to file it.
How binding is that? Was that a very firm?
I think the biggest issue was back then when I researched, I think there was some concern from the Thomases that if certain positions weren't filled by individuals, they were going to remove the carriages. And I think that the carriages were donated to the town, and they belong to the town until such time as the town chooses not to have a museum. All the other details, that was really the reason why we looked at it last time, but I'll get a copy of the full count.
Yeah, and I'll take a look at that.
But there is an agreement between the Thomas family.
Members of council, what are y'all's thoughts on, I know that we've got a lot going on, and I don't think any community our size ever answers the tourism question correctly. A lot of us don't understand tourism, but I'm getting a lot of flack, and yes, some of it's on Facebook, about people come to town and they want to see the tavern. Now, I don't know how many people it is, average, and the tavern's not open. I know we've done a good job in the past with volunteers at Christmas time, but, you know, Walter Mack and his cruise-ins, you know, just so happened this weekend he had several folks who want to go in there, and I don't know how long they want to stay in there, but it sounds like, you know, that's something this council may need to address. I know Colonel Tom has been big on tourism. I just, I know it's the hour's late, any preliminary thoughts of that part of town down there?
We really need to look at that. We have the signage showing museums this way. Okay, you drive by, that's it.
Mr. Mayor, we were doing the Christmas show with Bell Bubbles.
Yes.
People asked about that, and we said, we don't know when it's open or not, we know it's scheduled.
Right. Well, one thing the lack of the trains is going to do this year is going to lead to decreased visitation of the museum because Bobby Daniels funneled them in there, and they would come in Saturday and Sundays like, you know, droves. So that will probably be less this year, but the question that the councils get to answer is how active and aggressive do we want to be in Blackstone on tourism? We say we're a historic town, we are a historic town.
Well, you're talking about maybe if there's a function going on like a cruise and having somebody there as opposed to having somebody, because I don't know where you're gonna find that many volunteers nowadays to have it open every week or every day.
Right. And when Mr. Thomas was a curator, I believe his hours, one thing I will say, because a lot, you know, he was there on weekends. He wasn't?
No, he actually.
We had this.
Someone worked there on weekends, or maybe, was it Mrs. Thomas?
Ms. Thomas may have come in and volunteered, but I think Mr. Thomas, he can correct me if I'm wrong, this is 8 years ago, but I think he had a problem working weekends.
Okay.
And I think that was the issue, because he had Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or something like that going on with his kids, and he had other obligations on the weekend.
I think to be honest, we need to leave out discussing as an employee, already insinuating that Mr. Thomas would be an employee if we did hire him.
Certainly. It'd be a search. If the council ever decided to go down that road again, it would be a search for an employee.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's just hard to, and I believe, I know I was on the council at that time, it was just hard to justify having a full-time employee that during 95% of the year, you have nobody over there. And yes, we do need to address it. And maybe I heard Mr. Mitchell say part-time, we may need to, I don't know, figure out if it's a part-time issue that we need to resolve. But it is something we need to look into. I hate to see that people can't visit the museums, but I don't see that we could fund someone to be there all day, every day.
They don't need to be there Mondays and Tuesdays.
It's not a set schedule.
Right. And then it's like the chicken or egg argument. Well, no one ever comes, well, that's because you never open. And that's
Correct.
Well, Mr. Whitlow's already over there, he can multitask, couldn't he?
He's good. And Zach, I give you credit. You're over there for DPI, and you do give some tour. You let them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. People come to the Carriage Museum. I will escort anybody over to the tavern, and the majority of the time, that's what happens.
But you're not there all day, right?
You can't be.
I will say 90 to 95% of the time, I am in the office, and if I leave during the day, I'm gone 10, 15 minutes.
Do you ever leave a note by any chance on the door?
I leave a note that says, "Will return, sorry for the inconvenience."
Gotcha.
Well, I think maybe when we have our retreat, I think we need to discuss this among other issues. I think it's important. Any members of council have anything else to add? Madam President? Any other business coming before the council? This is the time we allow visitors to speak also at the end. Citizens, yes, Chris, and then Vicky.
Yes, I just want to revisit that issue, so.
Which issue?
The Rocktoberfest again.
All right, let's go third time.
We got a date, I know it's
All right.
third time, we're trying to get it done. And I talked to he left, the Beer and Wine Festival gentleman.
Bobby Thomas, yes.
Yeah. He said this would work for him, it would be great. We were able to get the bands moved to Saturday night, the same night as the Beer and Wine Festival.
Saturday, October 27th.
The 27th. It would run from 5, and we're gonna ask for that extra hour to 11.
Okay.
We open the gates at 5, the music starts 6 when his event ends. And then our first band would hit the stage at 6, the second one would come on at 8, and following all the ABC guidelines. One of the issues that the other young lady had brought up, a lot of times after the Beer and Wine Festival, a lot of folks come over to the Root House anyways. We still have to keep our ABC regulations and judgment open.
Yeah, once someone starts slurring the speech, where they've been at the wine festival, been at their house for 3 hours drinking, you've got to be careful.
We've got to be careful
Right.
either way.
You don't care where they came from. If they're getting intoxicated, you cut them off.
That's right. So that it goes with the security and just having a good staff, and being able to recognize those situations.
How do I'm all for this now, how do we proceed on with delegating what percentage of, how do they pay for police staffing or whatever, since it is a charged event?
I think they're paying the direct cost of the overtime.
Right.
Okay, so y'all have worked that out already?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I move to approve the presented, the new date and times, and also include in that waiving the noise ordinance
All right.
up till 11 p.m.
Mr. Nash has voted to allow the brew house to use the town square for Oktoberfest on Saturday, October 27th from 5 to 11,
With-
and to waive the noise ordinance, and
With them paying all costs borne to the town, meaning porta-johns if needed or whatnot.
you're probably gonna take,
Being that it's a charged event.
right, right. Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Second.
Mr. Wilkinson, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And when the karaoke kickoff is September 22nd, is that right?
September 22nd.
That's a Saturday night.
Right, and I think you're gonna judge that.
I'm looking forward to that very much.
And all the council members are welcome, they're invited to judge one of the 7 nights. So
Awesome. Cool,
just
cool.
let us know if you'd like to do it, reach out to the
I'm pumped. Thanks so much.
Do a mean Neil Diamond.
All right. Any other?
Let's you and I go up and do
Yes,
that.
any, Vicky, you said you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to make one comment.
Yes.
About the Carriage Museum and volunteering. And it's just an observation, having done this for, I guess, 3 years now of being a volunteer for DEI and being there on the weekends. This is a really tough issue because, you know, you go there and you volunteer for a 4-hour stint, you know, several times, and you might get, I mean, and this is just from my own experience doing it, you might get 3 or 4 people. Now, do I mind coming and doing that for 4 hours on my weekend? No. And have I done it lots? Yes. But it's the same core group of us volunteering, and people are getting exhausted. I mean, it's the same ones, and I just,
And it's not the ones who are bitching on Facebook.
Right. Well, why don't we, let me ask you this. This is something I've thought about too. Maybe another idea I had this year. Should we start maybe a Blackstone Volunteer Corps? I think a lot of times we don't, and it's no one's fault, we all get acclimated to the same friendly faces volunteering.
Exactly.
And we kind of think, well, because I'm kind of starting to dread doing this, everybody else would rather go to a football game, but we never really ask the community, hey, could you do this?
but I think there have been times when we have, and several different times with DEI, we have tried to get volunteers, and that's sort of what makes it, it's very frustrating here at sometimes where we have this wonderful community, we keep trying to come up with ideas to do it, and it's really kind of sad that the majority of people who come to things, and I'm not gonna bring up Oktoberfest because I don't wanna go there, but, you know, you get people in our own community who don't even wanna go there to our own community, but they'll go to Richmond.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's sort of this apathy towards, of the people, the community here, you don't wanna come out and support your own community, but yet we keep trying to come up and say we need.
It's easier to complain, there's nothing to do. It's always easier to complain, there's nothing to do.
And that doesn't exactly make those of us who continue to keep being the volunteers
Right.
wanna continue volunteering.
Well, maybe we need to come up with a volunteer programs. I will say this, the Crew Railroad Museum, and I don't know, I know they've had some issues lately, but for years, they've kept that baby staffed by all railroad retirees, no cost to the taxpayers. Vicky, point well taken. Thank you very much for that.
We
And
put it in the
wish
town
I had a
board's
solution.
contracts.
yes, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Wayman, Mr. Mitchell.
Councilman.
I've lived in Washington for about 8 years, and I think I went to visit 1 or 2 of the museums out of 8 years one time.
Wow.
You know, you're not interested in that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
you're there.
Right.
See, people on the outside don't want to see it, but I don't outside. What?
Interesting.
And that's a good point, because you're right, I mean, that does happen, but I just think it's hard to keep doing it.
Well, it is. I want to recognize Zachary Whitlow. You had your hand up?
I know I'm the enemy here at 10:30, keeping it going.
No, you're not.
I just want to note, you know, that there are things coming down the pipeline with tourism, with DBI, with the BTC. We'll get to those, but at a later date. But I don't want, you know, I want us to all keep in mind that the conversation's being had over the Carriage Museum and Schwartz Tavern. And, you know, I get Mr. Mitchell's point and others, but I don't want it to get to a point where people just say, let's get rid of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's, yeah, I've never,
Because there is a lot of potential to bump it up through things that we're doing. And I encourage you all to look at your museum district reports. We had close to 1,000 people that we tracked last year. It's not astounding by any means, but it's good for a small community. So it has potential. They are worthwhile.
you want me to do it? Well, y'all want to close this meeting on a really positive note? Chief, you want me to say that? Zach made a good point. You never know who it is that's going to come to town and who you will impress. Well, Chief, for the last several days, has been trying to contact me for a face-to-face meeting. I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I go in his office Friday, and he tells me the story that he was working the other day, and he got notified that someone was up front to see him. It was a man. He didn't recognize the name. He was busy. You know, someone was talking to him about one of his officers. Well, that's never a good thing, is it?
That's when he tries to sneak out the back.
Right. But being the chief he is for 15 years, he's like, well, I'm about to tackle, I'm busy, I don't have time, but let me go tackle this head on. So he sees a stranger up in the PD, and PD, he says, well, I want to talk to you about one of your officers. I was riding my motorcycle not too long ago through Blackstone and through Brunswick County, and I decided to take a break at the Food Lion, the Exxon across from Food Lion. And one of your officers came in the parking lot and started looking me over and looking at my license on my motorcycle, and I was worried that maybe I was past due on my tags or hadn't renewed my tags. And I see the officer on his keyboard, and all of a sudden the officer gets out of the car and starts walking to me. And he hands me a bottle of water. And the officer said, hey, it's hot out there, be safe. You need to take care of yourself and stay hydrated in this heat and humidity. And this visitor to Blackstone was impressed, and he wanted to tell Chief face-to-face, hey, you know, good deeds often aren't recognized, and I wanted you to know that about your officer. So Chief is relieved. The officer's done a great thing, and Chief wants to get back to work. And the stranger kept talking, and finally said, Chief, I want to show my appreciation. He handed Chief an envelope. And Chief, just like I do when people hand me things, I don't open it in front of people. I thank you very much and continue to talk. And Chief said the visitor was insistent. He said, well, Chief, you might want to look in that envelope. I want to make sure it's appropriate. And the chief was like, I'm sure it's appropriate. I'll look at it later. He goes, I'd really like you to open the envelope now. So Chief opened the envelope. And inside the envelope, I know you're probably thinking it was probably a nice little amount of cash in there, whatever. It was a check for $25,000 to the Blackstone Police Department.
Uniform.
And Chief, being the diligent public servant he is, he notified the town manager to make sure it was legit. It's a company, it's a contracting company in Petersburg. The gentleman does not object to his name being made public. He didn't do it for that reason, because if he did, he'd have called the newspaper the minute he made the donation. A gentleman named Scott Ray of Wilson's, who is with Elite Contracting Group Incorporated. And Chief Kuzmak has not cashed a check yet, but the point of sharing that story, when Chief told me, he said it's the only time he'd ever seen me speechless. You never know what good deed or who's going to come to Blackstone and say, you know what, I like that experience, or I don't like that experience. Think of someone that had a negative experience that was going to invest a lot of money here, and they said, you know what, not here. So I think, Chief, that's a testament to your officers, your staff. It was Officer Jason Robertson, but it could have been any one of Chief's officers. I think we need to give our PD a hand on that. We can close a 3-hour and 35-minute meeting on a good note. Any other questions or concerns? Thank you all for coming out tonight. This meeting's adjourned.
So everybody knows these are our current water, sewer, and electric rates in case somebody asks you.
You have it now, you got